It's Late Night Lori from Lori's Little Bit of Craftin' coming to you on Friday, June 27th. Oh, and I'm late. It's 11:30 here in Wisconsin. I'm an independent Stampin' Up! Demonstrator in the United States. And it has been a week of running back and forth to family's house. I'm going to move these things out of the way from yesterday's project. I haven't played more with that today. So we've had family in from out of town, so there's family activities because we don't see them real often. And that's what we were doing all evening. So it's about a 40-minute drive for us to get home. So I was a little late getting back and had to take care of chickens. And then two of the gals on my team were messaging me, and here I am. Here I am now. So, whew, welcome. Thanks for stopping by. Hopefully somebody will pop in live and chat with me, or leave comments if you catch the replay. I'm going to revisit this Peaceful View stamp. It's just a single stamp that comes in this, I can't even say it's a set because it's just one stamp. It is a cling stamp, so it's on the red rubber with foam. And the last time I stamped with it, I left it in the case and I put the paper on the stamp and pressed it and got my images. So I thought I would revisit this just a little bit. So this one I put a sentiment on, but this one has just kind of been hanging around in my unfinished cards. And I thought that I would just add a little ink, and depending on how time goes, I have another project in mind. So I am going to find a piece of scratch paper here. I need to get some more scratch paper. Let me move this kind of out of the way here. So I am just going to add a little bit of color to this. Now the only thing I did on this one, well, on both of these, I added a little bit of red to turn it into a cardinal. But this one I put the red layer because I think it really drew out that color. But now I think I'm going to go ahead and add some other highlights here, and we'll see how it looks. So I'm going to kind of like put a little sunshine in here maybe. And we're going to add a little bit of balmy blue for some sky. And we'll add a little bit of garden green. I think I need to add some ink to some of my ink pads because they are getting kind of light. I've been stamping a lot. So we're just going to add some blue in here. It doesn't have to be a real dark blue, and I think that shows up through the video. And I'm just trying to be careful so that I don't go over the edge and add color where I don't really want it. We could probably even go a little bit further down and add some blue all in here. That looks subtle and nice, I think. So let's add a little bit of garden green. And we're just going to add a hint around these branches. And then we're going to put a little bit down for the ground here. And what a difference that makes. Just that little bit of color. So let's add a little bit more green for some of these branches, I think. What a difference. Black and white to color. We're like in Technicolor. I think that's what it was back in the 60s, right? So that was pretty simple. So, ta-da, that's all I have for tonight. I'm just kidding. So 5 minutes, I chit-chatted and added some color. But now I want to do something a little bit more. I still just want to use the stamp, ink, and the paper. And what I did was I pulled the stamp out of the case and I put it on my positioning tool, which is the Stamparatus. Stampin' Up! Doesn't sell this anymore. Hopefully someday they will again. It was a really popular tool, but there's lots of different positioning tools out there. I really like my Stamparatus. It's got some silicone feet so it doesn't slide. There's a foam pad in here. So if I use photopolymer stamps, sometimes you'll see that this is covered in a black foam. And then these plates move. And you can either have them coming off the side or going off the top. So it's really a nice tool. If you don't have a positioning tool, you might want to consider one. So what I'm going to do is pull in some paper from the beautiful gallery 6x6 designer series papers. So I pulled in one that I tested. You can see I've got a little ink on there. I pulled in one that I tested because I didn't want it to be a total fail if it didn't come out right. And then I pulled in these other couple of sheets from that beautiful gallery. So we're just gonna kind of wing it with the card bases and decide what we want to do. Now this is 6x6, and obviously my card front is only 4¼ by 5½ because this is a regular sheet of cardstock, and I score it down the middle. Hello, Tess. Thanks for stopping in. So I'm not talking to just myself now. We're doing the Peaceful View, and I'm on some beautiful gallery. So I don't know if you popped on after I pulled in a couple of my old cards. I did these a while back when I first got the stamp, and I just added some blending brush color on one that I hadn't finished. So now what I'm doing is I'm going to do this stamp on some designer series paper. So that'll take care of my colorizing. All right. But anyway, I take my cardstock, I score it at my 4¼ first, and then I cut it so that I'm only scoring once and cutting once. And then I have one for now and one for later. So we're going to go ahead and do cloud cover for this one. And we'll set this aside. And I'm using the Secret C ink pad. Normally I would use my Memento black, but this Secret C is such a nice color. It's got that hint of blue, but it's also super dark, so it almost looks like it could be black. And I'm just gonna really ink this up. Now, if you do not have a positioning tool, I would simply recommend that you leave either the stamp in the case and put your paper on top of the stamp, or if you have a big block, I think it's an F block. It's the one that's really big that'll fit this. All right. So we are going to, I'm just making sure my paper's all the way up into the corner, and I'm just going to set this down. And this is a dry erase board eraser. I like to use it for my positioning tool. And luckily I have a nice sturdy crafting table, so my camera shouldn't be jiggling at all. And I need to press more over here. And I'm going to add more ink because this is not as opaque as I want it to be. And on the one that I was practicing on, basically, I did the same thing. I inked it up twice because I think with the design from the designer series paper, it shows through. So it just takes a little bit more ink to cover that. So Tess, you're from Oh, are you from the... I'm trying to think if you're in my time zone or if you're in mountain time zone. I think you're west of me. I'm in Wisconsin. I don't remember for sure. Oh, look at that. That's nice. Now there's still some ink on here, so I'm going to focus over here a little bit more. And then I think I'm going to do one more run with the ink just because I want it nice and dark. And with the Memento, I might not have needed to do it this many times. But with these first ones, you can see this is just once with the ink, because the way I did it is I left the stamp in the case and I put the paper on it, and you can't really reposition it again. So that's just one layer of ink. This is 2 layers, so that's better. So let's see what 3 looks like. Okay. Make sure my paper is where it belongs. Having this eraser, it's like a little iron. It's got a nice grip on it. It's so much easier for me than trying to press this down with my fingers. All right, so this side, maybe there's some air under my stamp, who knows. But I think that looks pretty solid. All right, so we're gonna trim that down in a second. Let's go ahead and do this one too, just so we've got some variety. All right, so let's just start inking this up, and we'll do that a couple of times again. But I really love the detail on this stamp. It is just really pretty. For some reason, I'm kind of drawn to the ones that have grass or like the wheat stalks. Maybe it's because my yard around the edges and what I call the back 40, where we don't mow, gets kind of tall, and it's just like natural, not really like prairie because we don't burn it or anything, but it's quite pretty. I live in kind of a semi-rural area. We're close to, you know, shopping, and post office isn't too far away, but our neighbors are kind of spread out. So some of the lots, ours is only about 2 acres, but some of them are about 10. So anywhere from 2 to 10. Hello, Julie. Welcome from Ohio. Thanks for popping in. I'm doing the Peaceful View stamp with my positioning tool that Stampin' Up! Doesn't sell anymore. And then I'm using some beautiful Gallery Designer Series paper. And this is actually the 3rd one I've done. I did one to practice on. And then we did this scene, and we're going to cut it down, and then I thought I would do this one on green so we can just see what it looks like with some different cardstock as the base and the layers. I wanted something quick because we were not home all evening. So then, Julie, I don't know if you just popped on too, but these are a couple of cards that I did some time ago when I first got that Peaceful View stamp. And I just did stamp, ink, and paper basically, but I only did 1 coat basically of the Memento black ink. And I left the stamp in the case, and I put my paper down on it. So I could only do 1 layer. Tonight, when I first started out, I just used my blending brushes to add a little bit of color. Hopefully you can see that on there. I added some Darling Duckling, some Garden Green, and some Balmy Blue to add some highlights there to just kind of colorize it, like Technicolor or whatever from the 60s or 70s or whenever that came out, I don't know. And I'm going to do 1 more layer of ink, I think. And I'm using the Secret C instead of Memento Black. It is very, very, very dark blue, but it doesn't seem as harsh as black. I really, really like it. All right, so this should be the last one, and then we'll go ahead and find some layers and card bases that I did pre-cut. So even though I was a little late, I was cutting paper, so I was trying to get ready. And I think that will be pretty good. That's got to dry just a little bit. All right, so let's go ahead. I'm just going to take this out so I can rinse it off. And we'll get that out of the way. So I have a block in my sink too. I'm lucky enough to have a sink in my crafting space. All right, so let's go ahead and trim these down to a card front size. We're gonna do our 4 1/4 by 5 1/2. So I'm just gonna start by cutting the edges off, and then we'll size it down to whatever we want cut off. Because it started at 6 by 6, so I know we're gonna be good. So we're at even more than 4 1/4 right now. So this one, I'm gonna wait for this ink to dry just a little bit more. I can see, I don't know if you can, but where this green comes across the card, it's a little darker with the ink. So I wanna let that dry just a little bit more. So for this one, I pulled in some cloud cover, I think was the card base I pulled out for this one. And for the other one, I brought in Mossy Meadow. So this one actually looks good everywhere. I think that's such a pretty scene. So let's find, well, it was here a second ago. There we go. There we go. So here's that. I don't, so this one I pulled in just a little bit of Mossy Meadow. So I think what I'll do is cut off maybe this side, and we'll get it down to 4 inches. And I think my trimmer needs to either have the blade turned or replaced, because I'm starting to get some of the little rough edges. And this I already cut down to be just a 1/16 inch bigger. And it's not going to show a whole lot, but I think it's going to give us some highlights of the green, that there's just a little bit of green in here on the paper. I wonder if I should use black instead. And I'm going to have to trim this by hand. I don't like how that looks. It's a little frayed. So let's just get those frayed edges off of there. I think I probably need a new blade. So let's see, this might not be quite small enough, because I might want to show a little bit more of that blue. So let's take this down a little bit. We'll just take about 1/8 inch off 2 sides, and we'll see what that does. We can always take off more, but you can't put it back on once you've cut it off, right? All right, so then let's take this down a little bit. I think I'm going to take this side. And another thing is, I've got some paper debris in my track, so let's take that out too, because that can affect how clean it cuts. So let's take a little bit off of this side, and a little bit off the bottom. So what do you think? The Mossy Meadow, or do you think we should do black? I'm thinking maybe black. I don't know that there's enough mossy meadow for that to really pop out very much. What do you think? And I may have to trim off a little bit more too, because it seems like I didn't trim quite enough. So there's that one. Let's think on that one. And then let's do the mossy meadow one. And then I pulled in a layer of basic beige. I think that's going to look good. So let's go ahead and take this down to 4 by 5 1/4, but we might go smaller. Yeah, we'll definitely go smaller because I cut this layer a little bit smaller. All right, so let's just go ahead and take another 1/4 inch off. So I think we're at 3 3/4 by 5. So I think that one looks pretty good that way. And then I have another layer that will go inside. Okay, so I'll trim that down. And I'll get a sentiment on here. I'm not going to do that probably tonight. We'll just kind of eyeball these and see how we want it to look. I will post finished projects on my Facebook page, so you can kind of see what I end up doing. So I think that one's good, but I think I want this one. I think I'm going to try this in black. So I'll leave this here for now. And then I had one other one. This was my practice one. So let's just trim this down a bit. So this was just another scene from the beautiful gallery paper. And then I did it, I'm going to go ahead and cut this down to 4 right away. And then I could cut this down to 5 1/4. And I thought I would bring in some bubble bath because there's a little bit of pink in here. So I thought we would go with the pink hues. And I didn't pull in a layer. So I'm thinking I might do a black layer, or Misty Moonlight might look good on that. So I'm going to play with those. Let me get the trimmer out of the way. Get some of my debris out of the way. I am a messy stamper, so if you've ever visited me before, you know I'm a messy stamper. But there's these 3 very different versions with the same stamp, but different colors. And then when I add the sentiments, they'll all be just a little bit different. So that's our peaceful view on the beautiful gallery paper. Hopefully, if you've got some designer series paper and stamps, don't be afraid to stamp right on your designer series paper. Yeah, Donna, thank you for stopping in. I love this stamp too. It's just, it's very detailed and it's very simple, but I don't know, there's just something about it. And I love the little bird on there too. So on these first ones, I kind of colored that to be a cardinal. So anyway, that's all I've got for tonight. Just these 3 varieties, and then this one that I added some color to from my very first one when I first got the stamp, and I wanted to just play with it quick, and I haven't really played with it since then. So I will finish these. I will post pictures on my Facebook page. Let me know which ones you like. If you make something similar to this, feel free to add a picture in your comments on my Facebook page. I love to see what other people do as well. And that's, I think, how we all kind of build our creativity, is by watching other people and seeing what they create too. So thanks for popping in. Until next time, happy crafting.